Morning YouTubers. We're at the junction of the Ashby Canal and the Coventry Canal. It's called Marston Junction. And we've got to get our skates on to get to Hilmorton, because that's where Aitch is booked in to have his bottom blacked. We've still got quite a few miles to go, but our first stop today will be Hawkesbury Junction, or as close to it as I can get. I've already been this way when I was going to the Ashby Canal, so I know you're going to be in for a little bit of a treat with some of the canal scenery that we're going to go through. I bet you can guess what this area is called that we're coming up to now. Yep, it's the weird and wonderful Charity Dock. It's one of them Marmite type places. You either love it or you hate it. There's not a lot of in between. You wouldn't think that people actually live over there, would you? But they do, and they seem to be happy. They're not too far away from the chaos of Charity Dock. You've got these lovely properties with boat houses, and some of them have got their own private little docks backing onto their properties. They seem to coexist quite well. As human beings, we're all different, and different things make us happy, and as long as you're happy, that's what it's all about. Ashby seems very interested in something. See, looking at ducks is what makes Ashby happy. He likes ducks, but he's not too sure about swans after one chased him the other day. They look lovely, but they can be vicious so-and-sos, especially this time of the year when they've got chicks. Everything's green and lush at the moment under Coventry, and for what I've seen, the Coventry's quite nice. You don't hear too much about it. Just as you come out from under this bridge, the canal seems to really widen out. I don't know why that is. I don't know if there's anybody out there with some local knowledge that might be able to enlighten us all. Or perhaps there's no particular reason for it to widen out like that. They might have fancied one day to dig 10 times the amount of canal out that they needed to do. But that's very doubtful. There's a boat coming up behind me that's catching me up rather quickly, so I've waved him through.
You're a gentleman.
I wouldn't say that. That's my good deed done for the day. I even got called a gentleman. coming up to Hawkesbury junction now, and I'm going to be looking to moor up as close as I can to the junction. Just looking up past this boat on the left, but all the boats in front of it seem to be tightly packed. So I'm going to reverse up behind it. It's a bit windy today, and it's always a bit awkward reversing in the wind because you haven't really got any steering. Sort of just point the front and then hope for the best. So let's see how it goes. You should never really think you've mastered these little manoeuvres, because 8 times out of 10, if you can get it right, that's good. There's times when, I don't know, currents and winds affect you and it all goes wrong. But luckily, this time it went well. We're off again, all refreshed and ready for a new day, and whatever that's going to bring. Still looks a bit cloudy, but it don't seem as windy. We're coming up to one of the most famous, I suppose, landmarks on the canal system, Hawkesbury Junction. We've got the pump house over there on the right, and the canal really narrows here. I think there must have been a stop lock here once upon a time. And there's also quite a lot of what looks like council flats around here. Morning. You must have felt like you won the lottery if you got one of them. Now I've got to go under this bridge on the left and turn a complete 180 degrees and come back on myself. But I have done this before on the way up, and it's not as scary as I was led to believe. But saying that, if you had a boat coming the other way, it would be a bit of a nail biter coming round here. This little area is also called Sutton Stop. I think it was named after a family that worked here as lock keepers or looked after the area, but I'm not sure. When I get around here, I've got to pull over onto the lock landing. Because if you look at the building in front, just to the left of it, there's a lock. And this will be one of the first locks that I've done, for God knows how long, because I overwintered on the Ashby and there's no locks on the Ashby canal. So yeah, but it's a nice one to get your eye back in again at doing it, because Only goes up about 8 or 10 inches up and down. It's an old stop lock. Because where we've just changed from the Coventry Canal to the Oxford Canal, on the North Oxford, it was put there to stop the canal companies from stealing each other's water. Which was a very precious commodity at the time, and still is, I suppose. I'm just going to pull Aitch back a bit, because I think I can see another boat coming up to the lock. And the lock looks like it's in their favour. And now I'll go up there to see if I can help out. I'll probably get in the way, but at least I'll try and help. This is a nice old boat coming through. I do love the sound of them old diesel engines. I'll wait for them to get past, and then I'll give the front of Aitch a little nudge out so that I can turn around this elbow into the lock. I'm so used to doing everything on my own nowadays, but when I get some crew, I sometimes find it harder or more difficult, because I'm always looking at what they're doing and not what I should be doing. That's what happens when you're on your own, in life and on the boat here. You do get set in your ways. As long as I don't get miserable and set in my ways, I think we'll be alright. But so far, I've been nothing but happy out here, which is lovely. Right, let's stop parroting and concentrate on this lock. Feels like a bit of a novelty for me, carrying a windlass around, but I'm sure that novelty won't last too long, as later on in this episode we'll be going through the busiest locks in the country. All that so that Aitch can get his bottom blacked. I hope he appreciates it. Looks like I can still remember how to do locks. I think it must be a bit like riding a bike. I ride a bike slowly as well. You should never rush around or let anyone stress you up to make you rush around when you're doing locks, because they could be dangerous places. especially when you're getting a bit older like me. This nice young lady is going to shut the gates for me, which is marvellous. Makes things so much more easier. So if you're ever walking down the canals and you see a single boater coming out of a lock, offer to shut the gates for them. You'll have a friend for life. As you can see, it's very popular around here for narrowboats, and the pub that we just went past, the Greyhound, usually does a roaring trade in nice weather. People like to sit outside the pub and watch the boats go by. And of course a lot of the boaters like a tipple or two. Not me though, I'm a good boy, I don't touch the stuff. As you can see, it's not all idyllic scenery out here. You do get a bit of industry, but then again these canals was built for industry in the Industrial Revolution in this country and helped us to become a superpower. But them days are long gone now. It's mainly used for leisure and people like me that live out here. To the right of this bridge, I still think it's Bedworth, the town of Bedworth, which I think comes under Coventry, or at least the council of Coventry. There's quite a collection of old vehicles here going rotten, and I'll bet some of them are still worth a few bob. There's some more up here under the trees. Coming up here on the right just looks like another wonky old battered bridge, but inside there is a cruising club, Coventry Cruising Club. Sounds like the sort of place that's got a nice social life that goes with it. I bet they've got a little social club in there as well. Believe it by looking at it, but we're running along parallel to the M6 motorway, just through them trees on the right. You can hear it though. Going alright?
Yeah, yeah.
Not bad, thanks.
Good, good.
He's a nice friendly chap. Today's target is to get to the town of Brinklow, or just past, but we'll see how we go. That's the M69 motorway bridge in front of us. So we've got a few motorways around us. You wouldn't think it though, looking at the countryside. But yeah, just after this bridge, I think we'll be coming up to a village called Ashby. Yep, I can see some houses in the distance. So, this is Ashby. Ashby don't seem that interested though. There's no ducks about, you see. It's quite pretty up this end of the village. I think once we get past this bridge, that's Ashby finished. Back in the countryside again. The weather seems to be bucking up a bit, which always makes everything look much nicer out here. This looks like what was once a railway bridge. Probably another victim of Dr. Beachy. Talking of bridges, this is a different looking one. Very nice. We're slowly inching our way towards Hilmorton, and the clock's running down, so I can't really hang about. By that I mean hanging about, mooring up, because you can't go fast out here. I'll show you the journey from when I booked up the Blacking. I was at the top of the Ashby canal, so I've had to travel all the way down the Ashby to Marston Junction, and then from Marston Junction, you'll see in today's episode, all the way to Hilmorton Wharf Marina, where eventually I'll get Aitch back. This Field is a beautiful place to moor up. Got a lovely feel about it. And from here we're going to go to Newbold on Avon. And this little journey is like how I imagined narrowboating would be before I ever set foot on one. And it looks like we're going to have the weather today, so we'll be able to appreciate this little journey at its best. You might not think it, but for me, we're travelling quite a few miles to what I'm used to, because I'm always one for taking me time, having a look around areas and living in certain little places that I like the look of. And the name of this narrowboat coming up on the right more or less sums me and my journeys up. Because I'm taking my home with me as I go along these canals, it's not all about the driving the boat and taking it as far as you can everywhere. I just take it to somewhere nice and live there for a little while. But that's only my way of looking at it, and I find it the most stress-free way to live. But everyone's different. So, after that long drawn out sermon, what I'm trying to say is, I'm not used to travelling this amount of miles in such a short time. Get a lovely effect going under this bridge where it's at an angle to the canal. It looks really nice. We're just coming into a lovely looking boaty area. On the left there is Armada Boats. Do a bit of boat hiring. It looks like they've got a little boatyard there as well. But just look around you. The trees, the houses. What a beautiful little place. I've got one word for how this place looks. Wonderful. Even the birds are singing at the top of their voices. Right, we're coming up to Newbold Tunnel now. It's only a short one. It's about 250 yards. It's a one-way tunnel, so I've got to look all the way down the other end and make sure nothing's coming the other way. Looks clear, so I'm going to go for it. Where they've got the walkways either side, there's not enough room for boats to pass each other in here. Still quite dark in the middle here though, even though it's only a short one. It's always nice coming out of these tunnels because it's a different area from where you went in, so it's a little bit of a surprise. Although it's a pretty little area, Newbold on Avon, but the first thing that I think of when I come here is fish and chips. We've got the best fish and chip shop I've been in for ages, so I'll be having some of that tonight. There's a boat waiting for me coming through this bridge hole. You'll be able to see it when I turn the bow to the right a little bit. I'm going to give Aitch some revs so that I can get out of the way and he can turn the boat in quicker without going into the bushes.
Thank you. There's a few boats behind as well. A couple of boats behind. There it is.
I found a nice little mooring with the chorus of all the birds singing me in. I always have a look around to see where the sun's shining from, to make sure I've got a bit of solar. That's it, boy. Well done. We're at Newbold on Avon. When I was taking Ashby for a walk, I come across this place, Newbold Quarry. The water is crystal clear. It does pay to get off the boat now and again and have a walk around, because you do find some gems. Look at this place. Ashby's loving it. Makes a change for him to walk somewhere that's not a towpath. Lovely. We're off again. It's the last little push now to get to Hilmorton. I'm going to try and find a mooring that's about 10 minutes away from the boatyard that I've got to go. But I've got to get through Rugby first, and then 3 locks, which are supposed to be the busiest locks in England. This is a popular spot for boaters. You're more up here, and Tesco's is just around the corner. For those of you in America, Tesco's is like a supermarket. These two fellas are enjoying the canal.
Thank you.
There's nothing behind us for a while.
Right there.
If I was to do that, I think I'd be doing more swimming than paddleboarding. This looks a popular place. On the left over here. It's the off towpath side, so they must all be private. Someone looks like they're training horses over the back there. Got a bridge coming up in front of me, but I can't see it because of the weeping willow that's hanging right over the canal. So I'm going in blind really. In cases like this, what I do is slow down and I expect that something's coming so that I'm ready if something does come. And luckily it's all clear. We're well into the town of Rugby now, and the next town along is Hilmorton. This looks like a pretty new bridge. Holton Bridge, I think it said there. This is what I like to see. There's a family on this hire boat. Look like they're really enjoying their holiday. I can't remember any low bridges, so I think they should be alright up there.
Are you going alright?
I had to film this little thing that gets pushed along on the front. Even Ashby's interested in it. It's a novel little thing. Wonder how he pays his licence, or she. They might have to pay 2 licences for 2 boats. But hopefully not. We're coming up to the locks now at Hilmorton. You've got 3 locks in a row. Or let me try and explain that better. 3 twin locks in a row. I've got 2 locks in front of me and I'm not sure which lock the lock keeper is going to open. So I'm just going to hang about in the middle for a sec. Looks like he's opening the locks on the left hand side. It's nice to have some help from lock keepers, volunteer lock keepers. I've never seen them go past this first lock. Perhaps they only do that when it's really busy times.
How you going? Yeah, not bad, thanks.
Beautiful day.
Yeah, it's a nice day, isn't it?
On the road?
Yeah.
You and the dog?
What?
You and the little dog?
Yeah, he ain't much help, but a bit of company.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to talk to. I'll get you through this one if you like.
Oh, lovely.
So it looks like I'm just going to sit here now and get spoiled on this one.
Thank you very much.
Okay, mate. You're up the next two, aren't you?
Yeah, I'll be alright, I suppose. Get my eye in again.
So it looks like I'm going to be doing the next 2 locks on my own. That being spoiled didn't last too long.
boy?
We're going uphill in these locks. It's always a bit more difficult for a single boater going uphill because you've got to climb out of the lock. Earlier in the video when I said you must always take your time when working locks, this is a better example than the one I was doing at that time. You'll see why you should take your time. You could easily slip or trip, and all these ladders are slippery and wet, so yeah, don't let anyone rush you. One good thing about coming up in locks is you haven't got to worry about going down onto the sill. But like the way it's moving here, you just got to worry about it doesn't go back like that and batter the lock gates. I'm going to leave these gates open because I can see a boat coming down from the lock in front. That's like being considerate, and it also helps me out. I don't have to stop and shut the gates.
It's the lock. You close the lock.
The ones coming out of the lock have closed the gates behind them. But luckily there's another boat coming down in the other lock. I'll just hang about for them. I didn't have to hang about too long. And this is going to be the last one of the day, thankfully.
Cheers, mate.
Nice and steady as we go in. On my journeys throughout the country, most of the locks that I've done have been the double-sized locks. And I've still got to learn a bit about how the boat reacts in these single locks when you're operating the pedals. But I must admit, it is easier to climb out of these single locks. Sometimes on them bigger locks, the boat comes away from the side. But that's only if you're going the lock on your own. These kind people are going to shut the gates for me, which is lovely. And I'm off now to find somewhere to moor up. I'm going to try and get as close as I can to the boatyard, because when I was speaking to the fella, he said he wants me there at 8 o'clock. So if I get close, I don't have to get up too early. Another boat waiting for me to come through the bridge. He's handling that big old boat quite well.
Thanks, mate. Yep, you handled that well. You handled that boat well.
He's probably thinking, that was a piece of cake. What's he going on about? This is where I'm going to moor up, ready for going to the boatyard first thing tomorrow morning. Got to go under these two bridges, and just past the waterside pub is the boatyard. Just after these bridges, the camera decided to give up the ghost, so that was a bit of an omen for what was to come. I'll do my best to show you my arrival at the boatyard with this dodgy camera angle, but the boatyard is just behind them trees. There it is, and I've got a dodgy little pontoon mooring that I've got to get onto just behind these boats here. This place looks like a bomb's hit it. First impressions of the place are not too great, but it is a boatyard. When I got onto the rickety pontoon, I had to climb over this roof of a collapsed building that you'll see in a sec to try and find someone. When I did find someone, they said, "Oh, we've had some problems, come back in 3 weeks." And as you can imagine, I was not happy. Well, that didn't end too well, did it? I know boatyards have problems, but they had 3 weeks to pick up the phone and let me know what was going on. Would have saved a lot of time and energy. I found it pretty lazy and unprofessional of them, really. But the less said about that, the better. I went straight to Braunston after that, and I managed to book up a black-in for 5 weeks' time, and I'll show you all that on the next one. Got a few people I'd like to thank for buying me a coffee and becoming members on the Buy Me a Coffee app. And Ashby spoils it. I'd like to thank Linda in Canada for buying me some coffees. It's much appreciated, Linda, thank you very much. And I've got a new member on the Buy Me a Coffee app, Neil Mitchell, to go with all my other lovely members. The Buy Me a Coffee app is in the description, and I'll see you next time.